In 2027, this car turns 40 years old. And somehow, we're still arguing whether it's the greatest supercar ever made. Think about that for a second. Since the Ferrari F40 was revealed, we've had the McLaren F1, the Porsche Carrera GT, the Bugatti Veyron, the Ferrari Enzo, LaFerrari, the Pagani Zonda, and an entire generation of hypercars producing more than 1,000 horsepower. Cars have become faster, safer, smarter, and almost unbelievably capable. Yet nearly 4 decades later, the F40 is still regularly mentioned among the greatest supercars of all time. For some people, it isn't even a debate. This is the one. And that's strange, because on paper, the F40 shouldn't still be this special. It has 478 horsepower, a 5-speed manual gearbox, technology from the 1980s, an interior that looks almost unfinished, and performance figures that can now be challenged by cars you could comfortably drive to work every day. But nobody puts an F40 poster on the wall because of a spreadsheet, because the F40 represents something much bigger. And to understand why people are still obsessed with it almost 40 years later, you have to understand the world that created it. The story begins before the F40 even existed. In the 1980s, Ferrari had developed one of its most extreme machines yet, the 288 GTO. And behind that car came something even more serious, the GTO Evolution. It was lighter, wider, more powerful, more aggressive, and designed around the terrifying world of Group B. But then Group B disappeared. Ferrari was left with an extreme machine and nowhere for it to go. For most manufacturers, that might have been the end of the story. For Ferrari, it became the beginning of something else. Because the company was approaching a huge milestone, 40 years of Ferrari. And Enzo Ferrari wanted a car worthy of it. Not something comfortable, not something subtle, not something designed to appeal to everyone. He wanted something extreme. And there was another reason this moment mattered. Enzo was approaching 90 years old. He had watched the company carrying his name grow from a racing obsession into one of the most famous brands on the planet. Nobody knew exactly how much time he had left. And on July 21st, 1987, Ferrari revealed what would become the final road car unveiled during Enzo Ferrari's lifetime. The name was almost ridiculously simple. F40. F for Ferrari. 40 for 40 years. But what appeared underneath that name was anything but ordinary. Because at almost exactly the same moment, another manufacturer was showing the world what the future of the supercar could look like. Porsche had created the 959. All-wheel drive, adjustable suspension, advanced electronics, sequential twin turbocharging. The 959 was sophisticated, intelligent, technologically extraordinary. It was the future. The F40 took a completely different approach. Rear-wheel drive, 5-speed manual, no modern traction control, no stability control, no computers constantly correcting the driver. Ferrari stripped away almost everything that didn't make the car faster. And that philosophy is visible everywhere. Open the door, and you don't enter the luxurious cabin you'd expect from a Ferrari costing a fortune. You find exposed composite materials, racing-style seats, almost no sound insulation, no carpets. On early examples, sliding perspex windows. And instead of a conventional interior door handle, a simple pull cord. That's it. Even the paint became part of the legend. It was applied so thinly that the weave of the composite material underneath could sometimes remain visible. Ferrari wasn't trying to hide what the F40 was. It wanted you to see it, to hear it, to feel it, because behind the driver was the heart of the entire thing. A 2.9-liter twin turbocharged V8, 478 horsepower. Today, that number almost sounds normal, but combine it with a quoted weight of around 100 kilograms, and remember that this was 1987. Then imagine putting your foot down, waiting, and then both turbos arrive. No electronic safety net, no all-wheel drive system distributing the power. Just you, the rear wheels, and a car that suddenly feels very, very alive. 0 to 100 kilometers per hour took around 4.1 seconds. But one number mattered more than all the others. 324 kilometers per hour, 201 miles per hour. The F40 became the first production road car to officially break the 200-mile-per-hour barrier. Today, hypercars chase 250, even 300 miles per hour. But in 1987, 200 sounded insane. There was no Bugatti Veyron, no Koenigsegg, no McLaren F1. The modern hypercar world didn't exist. And then Ferrari arrived with something that looked like it had escaped from Le Mans and somehow had number plates. And perhaps that's one of the biggest reasons we're still talking about it. Because the F40 didn't just go fast. It looked fast, standing still. Look at it. The huge fixed rear wing, the low nose, the NACA ducts, the pop-up headlights, the massive rear clamshell, the vents, the exposed engine visible beneath the rear bodywork. There is almost nothing subtle about it. And yet somehow, almost 40 years later, it still looks right. Not retro, not cute, not interesting because it's old. It still looks intimidating. It became the kind of car children knew before they understood what horsepower meant. A bedroom poster car, a scale model, a dream, something you could recognize from the silhouette alone. And when Ferrari unveiled it, the reaction was immediate. Ferrari records that around 900 orders flooded in after its presentation. Its original Italian list price was 380 million lira. But demand became so intense that examples soon changed hands for dramatically more. The F40 stopped being simply a new Ferrari. It became an event. And then, only a little over a year after the car was revealed, everything changed. Enzo Ferrari died in August 1988. Suddenly, the F40 wasn't merely Ferrari's anniversary supercar. It represented the end of an era. It became the final road-going Ferrari personally associated with the founder's lifetime. And that is something Ferrari can never engineer again. They can build something faster. They already have. They can build something more powerful. They already have. They can build something rarer, more expensive, and infinitely more sophisticated. They've done all of that too. The F50 came next, then the Enzo, then LaFerrari. Each pushed Ferrari forward, and each became an icon in its own right. But none of them could recreate 1987. And that's where the F40 becomes fascinating. Because normally, technology makes old performance cars irrelevant. But with the F40, the opposite happened. The more advanced cars became, the more special its simplicity started to feel. A modern supercar can give you active aerodynamics, hybrid assistance, lightning-fast gear changes, complex traction systems, multiple driving modes, more than twice the horsepower, and astonishing performance. The F40 gives you a steering wheel, 3 pedals, a gear lever, 2 enormous turbochargers behind your head, and responsibility. That's the difference. You don't simply ask what the F40 can do. You ask whether you're good enough to do it. And that sense of danger, involvement, and mechanical connection has become increasingly difficult to reproduce. That's why judging the F40 by modern performance figures completely misses the point. Yes, modern cars are faster. Of course they are. They've had almost 40 years to become faster. But speed was only one ingredient. The F40 combined performance with timing, design, danger, simplicity, history, and personality. That's much harder to beat. It's why decades later, respected automotive publications and enthusiasts still put this car in the conversation with the greatest supercars ever created. Not just the greatest Ferrari, one of the greatest cars of its kind, ever. And now the story is about to come full circle. Ferrari created the F40 to celebrate Ferrari turning 40 years old. And in 2027, the F40 itself turns 40. The car built for a 40th anniversary is approaching its own 40th anniversary. There's something almost perfect about that. Because after 4 decades, almost every number that once made the F40 unbelievable has been beaten. 478 horsepower isn't extraordinary anymore. 4 seconds to 100 isn't extraordinary anymore. Even 200 miles per hour isn't the impossible barrier it once was. But the F40 doesn't need to win those battles anymore. It already won the one that mattered. It became unforgettable. Almost 40 years of progress have given us faster cars, more powerful cars, more expensive cars, and cars that are objectively better in almost every measurable way. But almost 40 years later, we're still comparing them to the F40. And maybe that's the greatest compliment any car can receive. Because technology gets old, performance gets beaten, records disappear, but icons don't. The Ferrari F40 is about to turn 40, and somehow the world still hasn't moved on.